So hi Olga, I'm really happy that you accepted to talk to us, and also that your film is going to be shown in Hungary. I'm super happy about it. I must tell you that I watched it in Vienna in a cinema full of Austrians around me, and then also like someone in your film says that this film is very typical Austrian, typisch
Mhm.
Austrian. I mean, not the film, but the this whole question about the Lipizzaners. So I was thinking like, how will the Hungarian audience react to this? But then when you started to talk in your film about identity and belonging, and especially when one of the historians said that it's so difficult to become Austrian because Austrians themselves, they doubt their identity. I thought, okay, we need to take this film to Hungary
Mhm.
and it needs
Mhm.
to start a debate. So maybe I would start with the question which is always a question for me with personal documentaries, which is about the process which you are in. When is the moment when you say like, I need to make a film about this? So when did you start and how did you arrive to this idea?
Mhm. Um, just to also respond to what you said previously, because I think it's very interesting. I had a few screenings in Germany. Sorry. And the rest, of course, is happening in Austria, most of it. But I think the interesting thing is that also I've been to Slovenia, which is very interesting also. And I just think that Austria is a very good example for the topic that we speak about. But I think it's a very universal topic and a very European topic in the end also. And so I was hoping that people from other countries don't distance it from it because it's like it seems too Austrian to them. Of course, the restrictions and the laws in particular and in detail are very Austrian, like regarding the citizenship. But I think the topic of where belonging and how a state like handles this kind of questions and how a national state builds up its own identity is a very universal question. So I hope the Hungarian audience will take something from it.
I'm pretty sure because we also have some real stupidities, like this bureaucratic
Yeah,
question.
yeah,
What is your home and what makes you
exactly.
Hungarian, and questions of integration.
Yeah, I think yeah, it's actually it's a question that every nation has. Like what is the typical thing for our country? And usually people then speak about cliches and food and symbols that are like made up and nothing more or nothing less. And so I think the question is really interesting. And this is also now I come back to your question because this is also part of why I wanted to make the film, not only to speak about the huge problem of the bureaucratic um, rules in Austria about the citizenship and what happened to me also, and the restrictions are so high that you know democracy in Austria is really in doubt at the moment. Speaking of who is able to participate in the votings, this is like the one part of why I wanted to make the film, but the other part was because these questions really like um, they evolved really quickly. Like, what does it mean to be Austrian even? Because somebody then doubts that I'm Austrian because I don't have the paper, and another one says, yeah, you don't need the paper to be Austrian. You need something else. So the question of identity is really like tightly connected to this kind of bureaucratic process. And when I was confronted with this quote, which is also part of the film, um, I hope I can make it in English, but somebody wrote, if a cat has kittens in the Spanish horse riding school, that doesn't make them Lippizans. And this is, of course, a very, he or she, I don't know, it was anonymous, but they're playing with this Austrian symbol of a Lipizzan horse who is like tradition and whatever, history. But it really raises the question, like, what does it mean to be a real Austrian? And this was, I think, the starting point when I was confronted with this quote in the news, and he was talking about my case. That I said, okay, I have to do something with it, and I already have a working title. Yeah.
In your film, you have really many elements. Like you have fiction, a fictionist part, you have animation, you have newsreels, you have real events, and you have these very, very important interviews as well.
Mm-hmm.
And they all feel very intertwined. So they really, at the end, you feel that they are really creating a very strong dramaturgy. So I was even watching the film, I was wondering like what was the order? So how did you write the script?
Mm. So I think it was clear from the beginning actually, or quite in a like early process of writing, that it's going to be some kind of hybrid documentary with different elements. And I think it has two reasons, because the first reason was that always when you do a lot of pitchings for financing and you speak about the project, what are you developing? And always when I used to say, like, I'm doing researching on Austrian citizenship law, people were like, oof, it's really not, it's so bureaucratic, it's not filmic, how will you do that? So there was this challenge of creating a form that invites people to watch it. On the one hand, I think that was also some kind of let's say strategic element to make it accessible to a broader audience, because I think it's really needed to speak about the topic. And the other hand, or the other reason, was also that I thought, while I was researching, as I said before, suddenly so many topics opened up, like belonging and home and identity, and so many like different levels of this theme that we had to think about, connected to the bureaucratic law. That we, as soon as we like decided to say, okay, the form doesn't have to be strict, and the form as itself doesn't have to be like strictly documentary like we know it, but it can also make this like how to say, like experiments in the mind, to go there and to go there and come back. And then it was really freeing, because then we said, okay, everything is possible in the way how we tell it. And we have so many different elements we want to tell. So some of them needed this documentary reality, real faces, real stories. And I think some elements are even I don't know, more accessible if you tell them in an imaginary way, let's say. So this is why, yeah.
But you really managed this, what you said, that it's a very bureaucratic question in the first, and then immediately you brought it down on a human scale. And this is what really touched me immediately in the film, with all the faces. Also in the interviews, I was even wondering, how did you do the casting for the interview? Because everyone, or what is your technique of talking to the people? Because everyone immediately entered this very intimate space, and they were not like distant people, even the historian or the expert who you were talking. So how did you find all these people in your film?
Yeah, so I think the experts, let's say, they are like one element, and they were really important also during a very early stage of developing, because they were, for me, for the topic, important to speak with them and to learn something more about it. So we started with them actually. We shot some of the experts interview before the real shooting even started. And so we had it like a fundament, like a basis of knowledge of it. And back then I wasn't even sure if it's going to be really part of the actual edit. I was like collecting them and filming them to have it, but I wasn't sure if it's going to be in the documentary in the end. But then these conversations turned out, as you said, to be so great. And the people that were talking to me were also like, I had the feeling they are the experts, and why don't let them say what they can say as on their own best, it's because they are real experts on this kind of topics. And I read a lot of books from them, so that's how I found them. And so they became part of the film, and I'm actually really happy about it, because it's as filmmakers, we are like skeptic about this form, that talking heads in documentaries are maybe boring, but I think it really, really depends on what they are saying, no, in the end. And I think I found what they say really interesting. So for me, it was clear it can be in the film if it interests me.
Totally,
But But on the other hand, it was always clear that we need these other interviews, which I call the non-experts, the people. We need the opinions, the public opinions on these topics. That doesn't have to be like on a basis of knowledge. They don't have to be experts on what they are saying. They just have to speak from their heart and be honest. And it really interests me because there are so many opinions on these topics, and this is what my experience was from the beginning. So many people were talking about it. So many people always have like very quickly the feeling that it has also something to do with them, even though if they don't have any knowledge about the specific process of the laws or whatever. And in the beginning, we started to invite people that had some experience with naturalization or getting citizenship in Austria, so that I also could prove that I'm not like a single case and a very exotic case in Austria, but that I'm like one from many, many, many people. And then we quickly like opened the conversation to people from the streets, literally. So we invited people from the streets if they are interested in a conversation with me. And every interview was approximately like 30 to 40 minutes. So it was really long also.
But literally, so you went to the street, and when you saw a face which you felt like, I want to talk to her or him, you just invited?
Yeah. And sometimes it was even even more abstract than what you just described, because me and the cameraman and the sound guy, we were in the studio waiting, and production brought us people in, so we didn't even know sometimes who is coming. And so every time somebody took place on this chair ahead of me, I had to engage in a completely new conversation from the start, and erasing everything I think or know or think to know about people. And I think it was really interesting because with all the people, and of course there were people who are not my opinion, and I mean that's a good thing, no. With everybody, it was a great conversation in the end. It was just regarding the technique, it was just a question of when do I tell them my story, when do I like invite them into the topic more specifically, because some of the questions I wanted them to that they just answer from the heart. Don't think about the topic too much, don't overthink it. Just tell me what you think is very Austrian, or tell me what do you think should be the law for citizenship. So yeah, I think it was a interesting experience, and I think we had like 50 to 60 people interviewed, and of course not all of them made it into the film, but it was very fun to watch them, to rewatch them, and to edit them, because there were so many great like sayings.
No,
And
it
what
was
you said
really
about
incredible.
what you said about the intimacy, I think is a very, very great idea that our cameraman had, because he had like this mirror system in front of the lens. And so the people they were looking directly into the camera lens, but they saw my face. So they thought he was speaking to me, because there was this mirrors. And so they had the feeling they were looking into my face, and I looked in their face over the mirror, but they were actually looking directly into the lens, which has a also very powerful, I think, moment in the cinema, because they're really like looking on the audience. So that was also a great filmic trick, let's say.
Amazing. And you also start quite early in the film with the question, why do I want to be Austrian? Why is it so important for me? So talking to all these people and the researchers, and I guess you were also had to, when writing the script, reading again and again and again these questions of where is my home? Where do I belong? Where did you arrive in your personal journey with this question?
So I think I made the decision to apply for Austrian citizenship before the film, obviously, and knowing also that Austrian laws wants from you to give back your old citizenship, so you to really decide on one citizenship, and to in my case, say goodbye to Serbian citizenship. So this decision was already made for me because I think I mean, I don't have to explain that I live here and my life is here in Austria, but also, you know, I wanted to all my life I wanted to take part in the elections. It's really important for me to be able to vote, you know. And on the other hand, I think it had also something to do with as that you get the feeling that the state also acknowledges you and sees you as part of the society, a full member of the society, and not somebody who is staying and but he doesn't belong to us. And you know, if I'm traveling abroad, I want the Austrian embassy to feel responsible for me as a citizen who is, you know, it's also some kind of questions of diplomatic how do you say security, you know, to have this to really can trust and rely on this fact. And the fact is purely bureaucratic, but it gives you many rights. And on the other hand, you know, I live here, I pay my taxes, I have to obey to the laws, I have to do everything else that an Austrian citizenship also has to do. So I think it has to be balanced, right? So this is why I decided to take the process. Yeah.
Yeah. What also makes the film very strong for me is the tone that you stay on the surface on this very playful tone, and I was laughing a lot, and the whole cinema was laughing a lot. But in the same time, every like 10 minutes or like very frequently, you're bringing it down, that it's fucking serious, that it's not just, you know, like question of which passport do I hold, but every time you bring it when a Ukrainian person comes or when a people of color comes, and then you realize that this is much more serious question. Or at the very end, when you talk to your grandma about giving up the Serbian, there I really had tears in my eyes. And I'm half Slovak and half Hungarian. And I also tried to get the Hungarian citizenship and I don't get it for with bureaucratic questions. But I would also have to resign my Slovak. And when I talked to my grandma about this, it was also very similar experience for me. And in the same time, I wouldn't call myself nationalistic at all, like in any level. But still, this question of giving up your citizenship, it's somehow like it's really part of your core, and you don't understand why, you know. So
yeah, I think this process of giving something back, you know, it's just so unnatural to quit something, because it's not about quitting the Serbian identity or history or family part of myself. It's about getting what also belongs to me, which is the Austrian part. And I think this is something that in the society in Austria, at least, and as I experienced elsewhere as well, like as if there is not enough space for 2 or 3 belongings. But I think this is just, you know, on a personal level, it works for so many people already. Just the bureaucratic level doesn't want to admit it or acknowledge it and you know, work with it, which is strange, because people are so many things also in the everyday life, you know, not only on the national level, but you know, I can be a friend, I can be a mother, I can be a co-worker, I can have so many different belongings, and they don't like cancel each other out. And so I think it's the same with, you know, my when I'm in Serbia, I'm Serbian with my grandparents and I speak Serbian to them, but it will never change my life in Austria. So it's very strange that this was also interesting me a lot, because when I speak to Austrian people, on the other hand, and it's also part of the film a little bit, they would always say, I would never give back my Austrian citizenship, you know. German people living in Austria, which is a huge number of people, they want to vote in Austria, but they would never give back the German citizenship, so they don't get the citizenship. And there's a lot of understanding for them from Austrian side. They're like, yeah, I can understand. Like, I would also never give back. But when I, as a Serbian, or people as, I don't know, Syrian people would say, I would never give back my home citizenship, it's like a question of loyalty, you know.
Yeah.
And this is what makes me angry, because I feel like there is not it's not balanced. It's really some kind of let's say everyday racism that is part of this debate.
And that's what I like, again, like as a next topic, is that you are criticizing Europe and the very democratical establishment. And in documentary, we many times see films about non-democratic states, which is we already are kind of familiar and also safe with. But with your film, we have to question our own values, which are very important. And also you make some very direct political points also in your film. One of the maybe the heaviest is towards the end when you say, okay, so you know how difficult it is to get an Austrian citizenship for normal people, and then comes someone who has a lot of money, and then it's just easy. And this is exactly the same in Hungary, so I suspect that in other European countries too. And also there's another sentence in the film that something like 30% of the Austrians wouldn't get Austrian citizenship because they wouldn't meet all these criteria. So what was the kind of the effect or the effect of your film in the Austrian audience, or do you see any possibility to have a dialogue or anything to change within these bureaucratic questions?
Yeah, I think 30% of the workers and 60% of the female workers in Austria, they couldn't get citizenship regarding to this study because they wouldn't earn enough money. So that's the thing, because talking about money is in our world, of course, very important. And this is also where it gets really, really ugly. As you said, for people who have a lot of money, all these questions are not questionable. They're just everyday business. And I think, you know, the film in Austria is very, very successful at this moment. Speaking of the numbers of the cinema, so a lot of people are going to the cinema for the documentary. It's really huge, which is great because it shows also that not only, you know, people who, of course, who are affected by this kind of laws, like I am, are interested in watching it, but also the others, like the Austrians who never got in touch with it. And a lot of people, Austrian people, after the screenings are approaching me, thanking me and saying, wow, I didn't know any of it, you know. And this was kind of more our target audience, maybe, let's say, than people who had all this experience already, because they're already experts on this level, because they know all of it. They're just happy that somebody finally maybe speaks about it. But the others, like, they never heard about all these restrictions. And when you get into the discussion after the film, it's also very interesting right now because people are always sitting for the discussion. Nobody's leaving the cinema, which is very interesting. So many questions are coming up. And we really try to accompany all these discussions, because I feel like people have the need to speak about it afterwards. And so it's spreading and people are coming more and more to the cinema. And what is happening now is that, you know, at least on like the city level in Vienna, some politicians are starting to talk about it. Actually, tonight I have an interview on the ORF, on the Austrian television, like a live discussion with some politicians on this topic. So it's starting, let's say, slowly, that at least the debate is opening up again, which is very interesting because we don't have any elections right now. So usually this topic only comes up when it's election time and all the parties can like have their bite of the cake, and then they don't really speak about it, in my opinion, like on a factual level, but it's very emotional and very, you know, populistic. So, and right now we have the moment, because we don't have any elections, we can maybe speak about it, let's say, on a more like flat level, I hope. But let's see. I'm like just slowly optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about Austria. I'm just getting to know it. But what I feel is that people really have power here in comparison with Hungary, for example. So what you say, if people start to watch it, they start to know about this topic. And what I wanted to ask you as well about this, about the Austrian audience, do you know what kind of people, which I mean is people with on what side or what belief are coming to your film? Because in Hungary we have a big problem that left-wing or opposition people are watching films which is okay for them, and more into national beliefs they go to more right-wing films, and these audiences never meet and there are no bridges. So how is it here?
Yeah, I think we have similar problems, of course, and the question always, like from the beginning, was arising, like how do we bring this film to people who should watch it really, and not like being like the preaching to the crowds kind of
and tapping our own shoulder.
Exactly. So this is why also, of course, for film festivals, in my opinion, is always a very let's say open-minded and interesting, of course, interesting people coming, but you know, they would maybe already have read something about it, or they would be open enough to speak differently about it. But we really want to approach people that really never thought about it, or that are particularly on the other side maybe. And the one thing that is kind of keeping us optimistic in this point is that we have this co-financing of the television, of the state's television, for the project. So they really like the film, and they will, after the cinematic release, they will also play it on regular TV in the evening program, you know, and they want to play it on a normal time, like 8 or 9 in the evening. And I think this is actually the way to approach people who are on another bubble. And I'm very interested in what will happen then, because now I have like some of it from the audience that later on writes me email, and I get like, okay, this is interesting. Maybe he or she like don't go to the cinema so often, but went to this film, which is great. But it's like more of a, you know, it's not a whole crowd. And for the TV release, I think it's gonna be a bit different, of course, because people will watch it randomly. And this is, I think, you know, a very important fact, speaking to you, for who is in Hungary, and what we hear about Hungary from Austria. And you know, this is also Austria, that the film was financed from the government from the beginning of the process. And in the concept, there was never like any lies about what we want to do. It was always clear that we want to stress a fact that is also, you know, a critic to the system. And it was possible to get funding. It was possible. It's 100% Austrian money, state money, ORF money, and they were all very supportive, you know. And I think this is maybe the most important thing for the filmmakers, that as long as we can at least speak up about some things that we think is wrong, you know, it gets the audience, even though we have to put some effort in it. But that's really something that is concerning me in other like democratic, let's say, countries around us. But you, of course, know best about it.
We'll see. We will have, I think, a very interesting conversation after your film with some experts on this topic of identity, and you would like to take it a little bit and use the opportunity that your film raises important questions, and then try to bring it to the Hungarians. So I'm very curious how it's gonna work out. I wanted to ask at the end, just towards come back to the personal side of the film. How is your grandma now, with the question of you being real Austrian now?
I mean, I didn't yet get it, so I am not Austrian yet.
Okay.
I'm still in the process, but of course, we spoke about the decision that I will give back the Serbian one. And as I said, like I already like made this decision many years ago, and my family knows that I'm gonna do that. And you know, I think speaking to my grandmother was really important, and it was funny enough, it was really the last day of shooting when I had this telephone call, and she reminded me of the beginning of my let's say approach to get Austrian citizenship, which was maybe a bit more pragmatic way of thinking about it, to, as I said, getting the rights that I deserve, and it will not change who I am and who my family was. And she reminded me of that in a very, I think, loving way. So it was really important speaking to her. And I knew that we had one take, because we can only shoot it once. We cannot repeat what she says, but I was sure that she was going to say something that that has a meaning. And yeah, now I mean, she's really happy that the film is going well, and of course, she as coming from a Yugoslavian background, she's very concerned about the about me speaking about politics in the public. So she's, you know, concerned about different things, but I think, yeah, they're all very supportive in this matter. And funny enough, she was because I have to give back the Serbian citizenship now, so I'm in the process of this bureaucratic of the Serbian side. And she went to the how do you say, to the place where you can do that. I don't know, like a
Client center or whatever is
yeah,
the
like a client center, exactly. And she spoke to a woman there, and she explained my situation, that I need to give it back, and that I'm not like super happy about it, but that I need to get the Austrian citizenship. And she was getting friends with her. And she said like she made a film, you know, and she's my granddaughter. And then the worker there told her like, tell your granddaughter with best regards from Serbia, like she doesn't have to be too concerned because she can come back anytime. So that was really nice, because they are not strict about getting citizenship at all. They have different problems, but it was like a little bit of relief, you know, if something gets wrong here, I can just, you know, I stay in some kind of list, like I used to be Serbian, and I can get it back. Yeah.
That's really beautiful. And that also shows us that we are still European, and
Exactly.
how privileged we are actually
Yes.
in this whole
Absolutely.
process.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the talk.
Thank
And
you for your questions.
I will try to keep you posted with how the Hungarian premiere went and
Yes, I'm really, really super keen on what the audience says. Yeah. Mhm.